You're with Julian on the Brown Note and why you should never be able to change an artist's work. So last week we saw how Roald Dahl's children's books were being, with the acquiescence or even with the enabling of the both publishers and the estate of Roald Dahl, we're going to reissue his books and change the words to remove anything that is offensive to our current precious sensibilities. So there would be both versions available. Now today I've seen the next shoe to fall. Hot on the heels of the controversy over Roald Dahl's books, the publishers of James Bond's novels have announced the upcoming reprinting of Ian Fleming's spy series will have derogatory and racist language removed from the original text. While the editing of Dahl's books focused on making the text less offensive and more inclusive, the language being removed from Fleming's novels, including repeated use of the M-word, is clearly more hurtful. Fleming himself approved the changes to US printing of his novel prior to his death in 1964. Like with Dahl's books, sensitivity readers poured over Fleming's novels ahead of the reprinting celebrating his anniversary. On their recommendation, the racist and stereotypical language was largely taken out of Bond's books. Now, I'm completely against all of this. Even though Fleming has allegedly originally agreed that some of this language can be removed, he's not here to answer these charges, and neither is Roald Dahl. Now, I don't think you should be allowed to change an artist's work ever. I think that's a baseline to live by. It doesn't matter whether anyone finds it offensive or not. It's what they created. It represents a snapshot of that era, of that time, and of where they were at. If you change those things, then you're changing something about the work of art itself. Do we then change a painting? Do we then decide the Mona Lisa needs changing? Do we say that I suffer from anxiety and Mozart's work has too many notes? Is it okay if we remove some? Hyperbolic gibberish, yes. But an ultimate endgame from what's starting now. And make no bones about it, this is about them being able to flog these books in the current climate. It isn't coming from a place of kumbaya inclusivity. It is coming from a place where they can refurbish this to resell it to a modern era, which is doubly bad. This is what Roald Dahl actually said. A conversation the author had 40 years ago has come to light, revealing he was so appalled by the idea publishers might one day censor his work, he threatened to send the crocodile from one of his works to gobble them up. The conversation took place in 1982 at Dahl's home in Great Missenden in Buckinghamshire, talking with the artist Francis Bacon. I've warned my publishers that if they later on so much as change a single comma in one of my books, they will never ever see another word from me, he said. With typically evocative language, he added, when I'm gone, if that happens, then I'll wish the mighty Thor knocks hard on their heads with his mighty hammer, or I will send along the enormous crocodile to gobble them up. Good Thor reference from 40 years ago. But this is the thing, like an artist chooses their art, what they place in their art so specifically, that who gives anyone the right to say that this isn't, this is an okay version of their art. You can write a new book that isn't their art, or you can deny reading that book for yourself, but you shouldn't be able to make the most commonly available version of that art what you've decided. Who gets to decide what's next? What if it just isn't about words that people... I think in the Roald Dahl books, using words like fat and ugly, have we really reached that stage where that is a problem? And given the current climate of sensitivity, and I'm speaking as a complete lefty, the number of things that people can find problematic and do at the moment is jaw-droppingly wide. So, do we remove, in the future, are we going to be removing chapters from books that are too intense or too upsetting? Do we homogenize and water down all art? We shouldn't be allowed to change any of it. It's missing an opportunity. an opportunity to teach people, particularly young people, how to deal with things that they do find offensive, how to deal with art that in some places is problematic to them now. It's not killing them to actually suffer these words, but it is an opportunity for them to understand that history marches and that time changes, and that when that was written, these are opportunities to learn. You cannot go back and bowdlerize and just to pacify a section of the audience. Virtually everyone on the right and left of politics is opposing this. It's a tiny group of people that are driving this. And if you don't think that something as stupidly hyperbolic as what I said about removing intensity from a novel or from a piece of music in the future would eventually be on the cards, that's exactly what will happen. If they think that they can make a franchise of billion-dollar films out of Roald Dahl's books, but they need to remove language so they don't get the online community attacking them, large corporations will side with these tiny minority groups. Like I said, it isn't the left or right doing this. It is a very small minority that have found their space in the world by doing this, by opposing absolutely everything, by going through everything that has existed from the past and finding what they find offensive about it. You're allowed to. We are allowed to be offended. It's not something that is hurting us beyond our own offense. It teaches us. It is an opportunity to reflect on why we moved on from where those things were okay. And we're gonna like sand down every edge presented to a child in the future. So I completely oppose this. In the space of a week, we've had two major authors, Roald Dahl and Ian Fleming, have their works changed. You shouldn't be allowed to change an artist's work. There should be some legislation in place where you can't do so. And I'm pretty sure that Roald Dahl's words from 1982 were as specific that you can't change even a single comma. So the owners of this work, what are we going to do? Are we going to change Jimi Hendrix's work because the estate says so? Are we going to change NWA's music in the future because the people that own it at that stage say that it's offensive? So we're going to get like this bluey friendly version of NWA? It's an appalling road to go down. It's anti-artistic. The art should be sacrosanct. And it misses lots of opportunities in furthering, younger people's understanding of the world and the universe and the progress of history around it. So, no, I'm completely against it.